Storytelling means how we tell stories in books, in movies, and in games. In video games, especially in indie games, storytelling is very important. Indie games are made by small teams or even one person. They don't always have big budgets or realistic graphics. But many indie games tell powerful, emotional stories. Stories that are personal, unique, and deeply human. In fact, indie developers are often praised for pioneering new ways to tell stories, using interactive and experimental techniques that larger studios might avoid. In this video, I will talk about how indie games tell stories, how they create interesting characters, how they make us feel strong emotions, and I will show you some examples of indie games that did this very well. We'll also talk about some research that shows how storytelling in games affects players. So, let's begin. Let's start with how stories are built. This is called narrative structure. In most books and movies, stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's called a linear story. You follow the same path every time. But in video games, the player is part of the story, so the structure can be very different. Here are four common types of storytelling in indie games. Linear storytelling. The story goes in one direction, like reading a book, the one that you'll never find in Christopher Nolan's movies. Branching storytelling. You make choices, and those choices change the story. There can be many different endings. Environmental storytelling. The world itself tells the story. You learn by exploring, not just reading or watching. Non-linear storytelling. The story can happen in any order. You discover pieces in your own way. In Journey, the story unfolds without words, through visual and environmental cues. In Undertale, your moral choices drastically affect the narrative outcome. In the Stanley Parable, the game plays with your expectations, making the narrator part of the story. Researchers like Janet Murray and Jasper Joule argue that games can be interactive narratives, where the player becomes a co-author. Indie games fully embrace this, often using fragmented or experimental storytelling techniques to explore topics that mainstream games normally avoid. Characters are very important in storytelling. We connect to the story through the people in it. In good stories, characters change. They learn something. They go on a journey. Indie games often focus on just one or two characters. This allows for deeper emotional exploration and development. These characters often reflect real world struggles and inner conflicts. Some common strategies include giving characters strong personal goals, using inner thoughts or visual cues to show emotion, letting players make key decisions, and showing emotional growth over time. Here are some examples. In Celeste, Madeline's glimp is also a metaphor for dealing with anxiety and self doubt. In Greece, the stages of grief are portrayed through color, movement, and sound. In A Short Hike, you feel Claire's peace and curiosity as she explores. A University of Wisconsin study found that players feel more engaged when they identify with characters, especially when those characters have personal or relatable stories, something many indie games do very well. One of the biggest strengths of indie games is emotion. Indie titles often focus less on action and more on making players feel something, like sadness, joy, love, grief, or hope. This emotional engagement often comes with subtle design choices. Music sets the tone and deepens mood. Art style communicates feeling through colors and shapes. Silence adds weight to moments. Small details tell big stories, like a photo, a note, or a single gesture. Player's choice makes the emotions feel personal and earned. Here are some other examples. To the Moon uses memory travel to tell a touching story about love and regret. Spiritfarer invites you to guide souls to the afterlife, helping them find peace. What Remains of Edith Finch turns tragic family stories into interactive poetry. According to Ashcraft and Snow and Suttner, games like Journey create emotional release similar to literature or film, a concept known as catharsis. Studies also show that emotional storytelling in games boosts empathy and emotional intelligence. A paper in Social, Psychological, and Personality Science found that strong narratives help players perceive meaningful relationships and develop theory of mind, understanding others' emotions and intentions. Let's look at more indie games that use storytelling in amazing ways. Firewatch builds an emotional story through dialogue with a voice on the radio. Oxenfree mixes supernatural mystery with real teenage friendship and drama. Papers, Please puts you in control of a border checkpoint, forcing hard moral choices. Night in the Woods explores mental health, growing up, and existential dread. Kentucky Route Zero is a surreal, poetic journey about people lost in a broken world. Lake is about quiet choices in everyday life, told through peaceful mail deliveries. These games might not look flashy, but they're unforgettable, and they show how storytelling can be just as powerful in games as in books or movies. Indie developers also lead the way in diversity and inclusion. Many indie games feature characters from marginalized groups or explore issues like identity, trauma, and grief. By telling these stories in a safe, interactive space, they invite players to reflect, not just on the game world, but on their own lives. These stories create space for empathy and self discovery, and the impact is real. Research by Bellman and Flanagan shows that narrative driven games help players reflect on the consequences of actions and the feelings of others. This isn't just entertainment, it's emotional learning. So, what have we learned? Indie games tell stories in special, innovative ways. They don't need flashy graphics or $1 million budgets. They need heart, honesty, and creative storytelling. They explore hard topics. They build the real characters. They let you choose, reflect, and feel. And they often leave a lasting emotional impact, like your favorite book or movie. If you're making a game, remember, keep the story meaningful. Build characters we care about. Use music and visuals to show emotions. Let players discover and shape the narrative. And as players, let's support these creators. Because games can be more than fun. They can be art. They can teach us about the world and about ourselves. Please share your favorite indie game stories in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.